Welcome, everybody. As you can tell, I'm not Paola De Salvo. I am Bente Liljaby from Norway, BLB, and I'm also a member of the Data and Knowledge Working Group. I'm going to be moderating this session. It will be my pleasure. We will, in the interest of time, I think we go straight to the point. Start with Margarita Di Leo from JRC, the Joint Research Center for the European Commission. And we are going to talk about the self-assessment tool, the self-assessment of being compliant with data management principles. Margarita.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to present the user-centric self-assessment tool for cloud platforms. Okay, imagine you want to book a flight from point A to point B. You use a comparative website, right? So you don't go on the air flight companies to check every single flight. So what we understood about the users using a cloud platform is the difficulty for them to pair their needs with the offer that is there. And they need to go on each and every cloud platform in order to understand what are the services offered and to understand if these services are what they need in their development life cycle. What do we need? What do we mean by cloud platform in the first place? So we created a sort of a taxonomy for a cloud platform, and we include data providers, geo processing clouds, brokers, catalogs, but also thematic hubs, research platforms, data cubes, and also virtual infrastructure. And we mapped over 150 existing platforms. We have analyzed the whole ecosystem available to developers, the whole ecosystem of cloud platform, from the perspective of a developer of a policy relevant use case. And we have analyzed their user experience. The developers along their life cycle, they need to integrate more services offered by different types of platforms for their own use case, and they face some problems that are, for example, discoverability. They cannot find data, services, usability, because they want services integrated seamlessly. And also, there are problems of transparency related to licensing, sustainability, and performance that are poorly communicated. We have co-designed with the users during a workshop, also in a past GEO event, a set of principles to understand what is the problem. Okay, so the principles that you can navigate from this QR code are essentially related to interoperability, discoverability, customization, community, sustainability, access, documentation, customer support, price transparency, and performance. And this we have translated into a actionable self-assessment framework, which is currently a prototype. It's temporarily hosted on a free platform. You can access from this QR code and using a username and password provided. This is not a permanent host, but it's fully functional, okay? So this framework has been designed around the three design principles that are technology agnostic. So it focuses on outcomes and not on the specific implementation. It is evidence-based, so each criterion specifies what evidence demonstrated. And it's constructive, so it supports improvement and not rankings. And it recognized that platforms exist at 4 levels of maturity, which goes to emerging, to developing, to established, to leading. So we basically applied this self-assessment framework to our first use case, which is the GEO infrastructure. And I would like to hand over to Felipe this part, because we developed this together with Felipe, with Kalamkas, and with Paula.
Yes, thank you so much, Margherita. So, when we run this assessment, and this is just to provide a little bit of context, we were evaluating this new version of the geoinfrastructure we are developing. So, this new version will be introduced in the next days. And as we were developing and we were keen to know what we need to evolve and what we need to change in this new version, we run this self-assessment in this tool we are developing now. So this included the Geo Knowledge Hub, which is the main and the core system in this new version of the Geo infrastructure. This also included the DAB, because now in this new version, the Geo Knowledge Hub is connecting and searching content using the DAB, and for the yellow pages and the management of the providers as well. So this is one of the things we are still working, for example, to normalize what are the knowledge providers and data providers using the content from yellow pages, for example. So just to provide this overview in what we evaluated.
Okay, so here you can see the assessment results. So the tool gives an overview by means of a spider graph, and in blue there are the levels that are already achieved, and in pale blue there are the levels that are achievable. So basically the platform is already working towards improving. And this self-assessment can also be used as to be run as a, so this is a baseline, and then for example next year could be self-assessed again to see what has improved. And so these are the strengths that emerged from the evaluation, and these are related to discoverability, to community, to interoperability, and also to access. And as you can see, there is evidence about the claims that are made. And also the tool provides feedback on improvement opportunities. So I think it was also useful for the infrastructure to understand what users may desire, and what improvement could be made in order to make it more accessible and more user-friendly. So in conclusion, this tool is useful to provide short-term actions that are of high impact, for the improvement of a platform. The framework supports iterative improvements, so it can be run several times in the course of the year. And can be used to monitor the development of a platform, and it is replicable across other platforms. So we welcome any other use cases that are willing to try it. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Again, we will have questions. Please note your questions for the discussion part. We will see if we can save some time to ask question and discuss. Again, we have a shift of both the order of the agenda and the person. You are not seeing Lionel Menard here. You are seeing Gregory Giuliani. He is from University of Geneva, but he is going to present the new support for the GEO data management principles on the data management plan, OPIDOR platform. Gregory, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bente. And as said, I'm speaking on behalf of Lionel, and I will present some of the work we've been doing for the past few months, also with some of our students here at the University of Geneva, on implementing the geodata management principle on top of this DMP OPIDOR platform, so that will support end users in managing and developing data management plans that are in line with the GEO principles. Is it working? Yes, sorry for that. So it's going to be the main announcement of the day for us. It's the official release of this tool. So it's called the GEO Machine Actionable Data Management Plan. So really, it's using the OPIDOR platform, which is a French-based platform that allows any users or contributors to the GEO work program to create a data management plan based on the GEO data management principles, to deploy the work and the template done on the open platform DMP OPIDOR, to enable also the collaborative writing and creation and revision of any DMP related to any specific project. One of the key functionality also it allows to have a fine-grained access and right management, so you can define editors, contributors, and so on and so forth. It's completely free and open, so it's still as usual, I would say, in the spirit of GEO. The only thing is that is required is to authentify within the platform, so you have to register first. There is an open API, so that it's machine actionable, and you will know that probably we have some discussions already with Felipe and colleagues within the data working group to enable communication between that platform and the GEO Knowledge Hub, and it's going to be a single access point. So it's available on that URL, and this is a work mostly done by Min Paris, so Lionel Menard and his team, by the INIST team that developed the OPIDOR platform. And we contributed at the University of Geneva through one of our certificates of geomatics student, Braulio Galicia, who did most of the work. And this work has been supported by the Institut Carnot in Min Paris Tech. So they financially supported that work. And you can also see that work as a contribution from the EuroGeo. And this is based, I forgot to mention that it's based on the former Excel sheet that Lionel developed in the past within the eShip project. So now it's, let's say, the more digital version of this Excel sheet. So the main concept, as you can see on the screen, so it's using the Research Data Alliance template, so this 6 level for the DMP. So it's a fixed schema. And what we have done basically is to map all the GEO DMPs according to this 6 level. So you will see that on the platform you have access to pop-ups that gives you directly the connection with all the DMPs. So we've done, and Braulio did a lot of work on this mapping with the GeoDMP. It has been done within the certificate of geomatics, and also the report done by Braulio is freely available on the University of Geneva Open Archive. And it's really an intuitive tool with an easy interface, and I will show you just and guide you through the interface. So as I was mentioning before, the first thing you have to do once you connect to the platform is to create an account to authentify yourself. So it's not a big deal. You can choose. The only trick is that because it's a French tool, your organization is likely not being registered within that platform. So you can choose this new organization level so that you can then be recognized on the platform. So choose this new organization. That's the only trick. Once connected, then you can create and start creating your plan. You see, it's quite intuitive. You can even import if you have already created also a past DMP. You can import the DMP in the system, or the easiest way, create a new one. Once you create that, obviously, it will ask you to create according to a certain specification. You can choose the language. Obviously, we'll use English, and then it will guide you through the different steps of the creation. As you can see, it's quite intuitive. You can obviously put a title to explain the plane, what is the abstract, what is the outcome. You can also, and you will see it's connected already to Cordis. So if you're part of a European funded project, so you can search for your specific funded project, and then it will also bring some of the information directly from Cordis, so the official title, the official abstract related to that project. And then you will be you can fill the different steps according to the DMP. You can invite also people, add also your objects. So either your services you are documenting, the data you are generating out of it, and so on and so forth. This is the level also where you can select the official, let's say, schema related to GEO. So you see it's quite easy. And here you have this 6-level document. So it's not the traditional GeoDMP, but for each of these questions that you will have to fill in, so you see that the 6th level, then you have this small star, and if you click on the star, then it opens a pop-up where you see the description and the mapping to the GeoDMP. So you see for each of these 6 levels and each of these bullet points that you have to complete, then you have a clear description related to the GeoDMP. And it's also connected, and you see you have hyperlinks that goes back to the Geo website where you have all this definition. Then you can also invite people to contribute. So this is here where you can define your user contributing and defining their profile basically. So it's quite traditional. And once it's done, then basically you can define their access level, and then you can share it also with others, and then hopefully also download your data management plan. So it need to be used, so you can see a PDF export of your data management plan. This is an example done by Lionel. So it's, I would say, a way that is way more easier to handle data management plan than we use in the past. And as I was mentioning, and this is going to be probably the last slide, so there is also an API. So this allows this machine actionable communication through the platforms, and now we have ongoing discussions in connecting this tool, this GeoDMP Opidor tool, together with the Geo Knowledge Hub, so that there will be a clear communication between the two elements and the two components. So it remains you now to play with it, to enjoy it, and also to contribute to the community so that we can in the future improve this data management tool. And we hope you will appreciate that effort that we've done through also this EuroGeo activity. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much and congratulations. I feel that we reached a milestone because we have discussed this so many times and so many presentations, and the community has already contributed to developing this. So this is a co-design effort, and we hope that we will continue along that line. I know that you, Gregory, you have to go in not too long. So I will allow a couple of questions for you if we have that in the audience. Do you want to ask Gregory a question? You have to ask now.
I will.
Yeah, Helen, I give you the floor. Thank you. It's on.
So, Gregory, I have a question for you. So we've been thinking a lot in the context of a project that we're working on, funded by the European Environment Agency called GeoIdea. And we've been trying to assess, using a small number of projects, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute, what are the issues with compliance with completing data management plans. So my question to you is, how do we incentivize people to make full use of data management plans so they move from this administrative burden to an asset for the research process? Do you have any thoughts about how we might shift the needle on that?
Thank you, Alan. That's a very good question, and that's a tricky question because we are still, thinking about it. And being a researcher also, even in Switzerland, when you apply for any research fund, you have to comply and write a data management plan, and that's like metadata. We don't like to write this kind of boring stuff. So I think that's going to be also something we need to collectively co-create, and this incentive all together to show the benefit of having this data management plan to the entire community and to explain that carefully and in detail. Because I think that's part of the documentation process also for our scientific knowledge. And that's extremely important. But obviously, we are lacking this incentive and we are lacking time in completing that. So we hope that this tool can at least ease a little bit the process and speed up also the process in writing and co-creating, because you can have this collaboration with all the colleagues within DMP. So it could facilitate somehow the writing of these DMPs.
Thank you. Yeah, Karamkas.
Thank you, Giuliani. It's not a question, I just wanted to share with you feedback that I tried myself already DMP OPIDOR platform. And thank you for Lionel. He helped me a lot in testing the tool. And I know that I'm related to the GeoKnowledge Hub activities, but I tried it for my research for dissertation, for the doctoral research. And I think this is very great tool for students. And I think this tool can help them to build their research proposal, especially for doctoral students. This is just to share feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Recorded. So thank you, Gregory.
John has been waiting.
Oh, sorry, John, I didn't see
No
you. You have to laugh.
I'm so quiet. No, I just wanted to say that we need to make people understand that the good thing about the data management plan is actually executing the data management plan. So the plan is a really boring stuff, but the benefits of having the execution of the plan is you end up with a catalog, you end up with your data accessible, etc., and we can understand that as a practical thing. So I believe the Commission is wrong in actually forcing everybody into a plan that is never developed into anything that is concrete. So you, at the end of the project, you are never obliged to present a catalog, for instance. That is what I would expect it. Because, you have a plan to actually execute it, not for the sake of having a plan. Then, of course, nobody likes the plan because, why? Well, that's my contribution.
Okay, thank you. Paula?
Yes, so just one idea, short-term funded projects, 3 years. Yes, they need a plan, but they don't need to build a new catalog. They don't need to build a new portal. They don't need, they can rely on what is already existing. And so if we integrate the OPIDOR within the GEO Knowledge Hub, it's done. They just have to comply to the GEO Knowledge Hub and it will be naturally implemented. That's a way forward. Yep.
Yes. Yes. So thank you very much for both your questions and your comments. I refuse to call data management boring. I think metadata and caring for the data is the opposite. Hence, I'm in this committee. Now we have, I mean, at the core of GEO, we have the data sharing principles and the data management principles. That's the foundation of GEO. And with the new strategy, Earth Intelligence for All, very shortly, we can say that without any Earth observations, there will be no Earth intelligence. And without proper caring for the data, we will not arrive at intelligence either. Now you heard how we can manage the data, some tools for data management, both on the infrastructure level and on the data level itself. But it doesn't happen by itself, does it? We require some knowledge. Those who are working with the data in detail need to talk to them, those who are actually using modeling and transforming it to Earth intelligence. So there's a thematic competence as well that is needed. How do we fix that transfer of knowledge? This is what Marie-Françoise Wadreau will say a few words about now. The dialogue series, I hope you have heard about it. We are connecting experts with worldwide community to shape GEO action, and it's Marie-Françoise Wadreau, currently One Single Earth entrepreneur, and also working, of course, in the GEO Data and Knowledge Working Group. Marie-Françoise, the floor is yours.
So in the last years, we have built some dialogue series to connect experts with the worldwide community and to shape GEO action. And this is the topic of the presentation. And by the way, I'm happy to talk after Gregory because we have made several dialogues on the data management tool. How does this work? Isn't it like that?
Yeah, if you press it, it should go.
Okay. So when we talk about Earth intelligence for all, the challenge is to move from observation, from data, to information, then knowledge, then decision, and then action. But in fact, this is not only a digital issue. The digital issue is big. I agree with that. And to move from one level to the other level, we need APIs and interfaces everywhere. But in between all these different levels, we also need humans. And the purpose of the dialogues is also to give the humans their place again. And I'm very happy that Alessandro has emphasized, Alessandro Turco this morning, the importance of individual and connections because all this is not magic. So we know that there is too much fragmentation between the data, fragmentation between the technologies, the systems, the knowledge, the policies, and the communities. And if we do not solve this fragmentation, we can have a data overload. And what we want to do is synthesize and connect all that. And you can connect at the different levels, but you have also to connect through the different levels. And this is where you need expertise and you need to connect the people. So we also have a lot of diversity of the data. But among each of these bubbles, we have seen this morning for the in situ that we also have a lot of diversity with different types of data. We have diversity among the communities. We have diversity among the technologies, the AI technologies, the cloud, the modeling, around the different policies. We are talking here at global level, so we have a lot of different policies, and we have a lot of disconnected communities. And we try here to address global challenges. When we talk about Earth intelligence, we talk about climate change impact, we talk about global loss of biodiversity. And so we need to connect at geographical level, at domains level, and at technical level. And we have seen this morning that these connections have to go through individuals. So the dialogue series is a new concept we have designed with Bent to try to address that. And it's an innovative online format where we connect diversity of experts. So we try to build an agenda, but with the Earth observation community, because all these dialogues are completely open to all. We communicate very much through LinkedIn and through the GEO networks. The purpose is to promote the data sharing and data management principles and the open knowledge as a foundation. We want to strengthen the collaboration across the data providers, the scientists, and all the different profiles we have in the community, so including policymakers and users from expert level to beginners. We want to capture user needs and real world experience, and this is very important because it's a bilateral. When we talk about dialogue, you have two directions. The direction where you give the information and the direction where you listen to the community to understand where are the challenges and what they want to address. This is the only way you can help, is understanding what people want to do and where they are blocked. So what makes it different? It's again interactive and community-driven online events. We try to make very short talks to set the panel to be inspirational for the discussion, to make people understand what is the topic of the dialogue. So we put a lot of stress on the speakers because we ask them to introduce their expertise and their solutions in less than 7 minutes. And then we keep time. The idea is to keep time for an open exchange and reflection and collaboration. This also builds the engagement because when you know the other people, when you know the challenge, when you know what you are doing, you create a real connection. It's not only listening to one. So the format is 90 minutes. We usually have between 3 to 7 speakers. As said, it's sometimes more, but we try to avoid. It's very short talks, and we try to have a clear storyline across the presentations, because if you go fast and just present a presentation which looked completely disconnected, the audience is lost. So we try to create a storyline to explain each of the talks in the bigger framework. And sometimes we make some live polls to engage more with the community. And we share a lot of resources via the chat. And this works really fine because the audience also share a lot of resources via the chat. The key benefits are cross-disciplinary and I would say cross-background knowledge exchange, a better understanding of the user needs, a stronger GEO community and partnership. We build a lot of the community beyond these great events like this one. We need more momentum during the year. And all of these dialogues are recorded, and we build like that new granule of knowledge which are shared on the GEO Knowledge Hub openly. So the idea here is to share a global expertise for local action. So again, this global to local we have seen into the global knowledge hub and the national knowledge hub. And the dialogues are just a vehicle to share the knowledge and to connect people. So I say that we build on the GEO data sharing principle. We have moved to open knowledge and we extrapolate these principles of sharing as openly as possible without charge and restriction as fast as possible, because this is the challenge for universities to catch up this knowledge that improves and develops very fast with a quick mean, which is distributing through these dialogues on the web, and we try to share with a minimum delay. So considering the past dialogues, the first ones were about the data sharing and the data management principles, the data lifecycle. We had also here a dialogue on the data management self-assessment tool, the very first developments. And you have here a QR code that links to the data sharing principle recording. But if you look for the dialogues about the GEO data management principles, you will find several dialogues going into detail about the principles and their implementation by some experts. Then we did some dialogues in 2023 about the different strategies to approach open knowledge. And this has been very good also to help the GEO community understand and think about how can these different strategies apply to GEO. How can we implement that? How can they be used for GEO? And I think it has been mentioned this morning, for instance, with the morning, the afternoon, I don't know, it's continuous for me. The open reproducible research and the open science, all these have been mentioned several times during the day. And it's also here, you have a QR code to the resources which are shared on the Knowledge Hub. And then we had some dialogues to go from principles to implementation about the data sharing and the data management principles and about the open data licensing, because you know that we also have a subgroup about licensing, and they edited the new guidelines, and we have something on that. Out of these dialogues, we have extracted some success stories, which are also shared on the Knowledge Hub, on the self-assessment tool, but also on data sharing and on the data preservation, which is something which is a bit at risk currently in several countries. And you have here all the QR codes. In 2026, what did we do? We did a series about, again, all these different topics, and I'm going fast because I am monitoring here the time. And what is interesting is that we are getting a lot of traction. Last year, we had more than 697 registrants, 340 attendees, meaning more than 70 attendees per dialogue. These are the ones who attended more than 15 minutes. But in fact, what we observe is that most of the people stay until the very end, even if sometimes we go a little bit over the deadline of the end. And it's the last slide, so it's okay, time up. So what we see is that we really engage globally, which is another challenge we can have here. And if we want to serve GEO, is that we have more people, a little bit more people from Europe and the Americas, a lot from Latin America, but we also have quite a lot of people from Africa and from Asia, which is really great, and we are happy about it because it's a real challenge. So this is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us give Marie-Françoise an applaud with the hands on the head. I see that people are, it's late in the evening, so Wednesday afternoon. let's wake up. Yes, we have 2 more to go. And it's, yeah, one other session, yeah, that's right. But in this session, we are now, so Marie-Françoise was talking about transfer of knowledge, making these data work for you through the principles, and best practices is another way of transferring that, being inspired by what others have done. And Kalamkas Yesimkanova currently from the GEO Secretariat, and also, as we heard, a PhD student, almost finished. Kalamkas, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Bente, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kalamkas, I'm from Kazakhstan, but I'm representing here the GEO Knowledge Hub. This is the tool of the GEO, and I would like to talk about best practices for the GEO Knowledge Hub providers. So as the GEO Knowledge Hub is the tool of the GEO. It is the central cloud-based digital library that designed to preserve, disseminate, and support the reuse of Earth observation applications developed by the GEO community. So I would like to just quickly go through the concept of the GEO Knowledge Hub that we use. It's a knowledge package. So knowledge packages is an application sharing unit that contains knowledge resources that used to create that application. So you can see that by having the concept of a knowledge package, we centralize all the resources with metadata, so the files itself and some auxiliary resources. And the resources can be very diverse, starting from the imageries, in situ data, scripts. I think this is now more popular, right? So workflows, results, publications, and so on. And as the presentations on the best practices, I would like to say that these practices, of course, based on the geodata sharing data management principles. And the first point that I would like to highlight is the clear documentation, as the clear documentation serves here as guidance for the users of your application. What is the application about, how to use it, how to access the different resources, and so on. So think of it as a user manual, and the what we suggest in the GEO Knowledge Hub that your user can be both technical and non-technical person. So keeping the all the documentation throughout the package and its resources, so the both of them can clearly understand your application and how to use it. And next point is descriptive metadata. And here metadata serves as a roadmap of your application. And the more the so we would like to have the metadata rich. So you can, if you attended the first session on the Institute, there was a presentation of Alessandro Turco on the integration of the GEO Knowledge Hub and Envy Hub next. So through the rich metadata, you will get the visibility of your application when integrated with different services. Next one is effortless access. So when you provide the resources, either it's data set or it's some materials, any related resources, it's important to give basically direct access. So we would like to break here the barriers and complications that users may have to access your data and script or any other resources. Publish all work components. Of course, it's important to have all the resources complete, but I would like to highlight here the scientific part of it, the journal papers, so the users can understand the scientific base of your application, of your work, and can go through the methodology. And as a part of it, sharing the training resources. This is also important, as your user may be the youth, the young, the students, and they can learn how to use the application, and so they can level up their knowledge and skills. And basically, if this can be the user can be also, of course, senior student from the other major. So this is basically helps to build capacity around the application. The licensing aspect, this is also crucial, as it define the terms under which the user can use the application. So it basically protects your intellectual rights and to help the users to know how to use your data, your software, under which license they can share, modify, and so on. The next one I would like to highlight is the user stories. This point, the user stories kind of add personal touch to your application, and by showcasing how the others who are using your application can inspire others, and also it helps to in terms of scalability of your application. Interact with the community. This is also interesting part. In the Geo Knowledge Hub, we have different features to facilitate this part. For instance, a user may ask you as a knowledge provider, a training. Could you please provide me a training or help to use your application? Or the users can ask any question or leave the feedback on the organization of the resources and so on. And apart from that, in the Geo Knowledge Hub, we're organizing webinars together with the knowledge providers to share with the community their work and how the application can be used. Another point that I would like to touch on the sustainability. Thinking long term, it's very important, and I think this is what we discuss many times. And in the Geo Knowledge Hub, we facilitate this point by two features. One is assigning digital object identifiers, and the second one is hosting capability of the Geo Knowledge Hub. So each resources can have up to 20 giga of memory. So we would like to preserve the work that has been done. This is valuable, and so the efforts cannot, the efforts actually should not be done twice or more than that. And of course, staying always up to date. In the Geo Knowledge Hub, we developed the automated tool, link checker, and it is already available online. This tool designed to support knowledge providers to see where in the package or in the resources we have broken links. So this is very, I think, in my point of view, this is very valuable tool for the Geo Knowledge Hub itself and for the provider, so they can identify directly which link is not accessible. As I mentioned earlier, all these recommendations designed to help knowledge providers to build rich in terms of metadata, description, and so on, knowledge packages and resources. And all these recommendations are based on the geodata sharing data management principles and geodata licensing guidance. You can find all of them in the Geo Knowledge Hub. And another tool that is available just recently this week, it's available from this week, self-assessment dashboard. This tool is designed for potential knowledge providers. So it helps to evaluate your content. So for instance, if you're not sure that the content that you have fit for package or for resource, so going through this dashboard, you can first assess what metadata you need, what metadata, like, the required one, the recommended, we have also optional metadata, and how you can organize all this content, if it fits for resource, if it fits for package. So this self-assessment dashboard helps knowledge providers, potential knowledge providers, to evaluate their content. And I don't know if you were before checking the presentation of Felipe. He was sharing the QR code. We would like to hear the experience of a knowledge provider and user, of course. And would like you to scan the QR code and leave us feedback as we want to improve and serve the GEO community. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kalamkas. And as you said, everything is on the Geo Knowledge Hub, so you can consult it there. Now moving on to the next speaker in this session, we are going to be introspective. And before I give you the floor, we have a very long title on your talk, Helen. You know Helen Glaves.
It's not really mine.
It's not really yours. Okay. She represents, in this case, the European Plate Observing System. And of course, she's the in situ data subgroup co-chair. And we will hear more from you also the next coming days, Helen. And she's a very passionate advocate for in situ data. So the floor is yours, Helen.
Thank you for the introduction, Bente. So yes, it's me again. But I'm actually making this presentation on behalf of Julia Kaufape from Evenflow, who is not able to come to Geneva this week. So we have been working in a project called GEO Idea, and this project is funded by the European Environment Agency to actually undertake a whole raft of different activities. I'm actually going to focus in on one activity today around data management plans. So I need you to cast your mind back to the presentation that was given to Gregory a little while ago, because we originally planned that these two would be in tandem, but Greg has had to leave. I just quickly want to give some context for the work. So I'm going to say a few words about the GEO Idea project and the work that we have been doing thanks to the European Environment Agency. And Jean-Philippe is here in the room. So if you have any questions about the project, you can ask him directly. I wasn't going to resist the opportunity to put you on the spot, Jean-Philippe. So the project is around providing expertise on open sharing and management of in situ Earth observation and geospatial data. And the focus is very much on data relevant to the European context, but also global climate adaptation policies and initiatives. But one of the most relevant parts of the work that we're doing here is actually the support that it brings to the coordination with the group on Earth observations, and in particular, a number of the activities that we've been undertaking in the context of GEO have been supported by this action. In fact, the dialogue series has also been supported in part by this action as well. So we have a number of tasks that are very much focused on GEO's data sharing and data management practices and initiatives. But we're also supporting the implementation and promotion of the regional EuroGeo and the related activities there. So we have different activities both at the global and the regional scale in the context of this project. But one of the critical things that we're doing, and the thing that I'm going to talk more about today, is we're thinking about standard processes to facilitate the reuse of in situ data, and in particular, how these relate to the GEO priorities. Oh, apparently I'm not going to talk about it. Oh, there we go. So what I'm actually going to talk about today is how the role that data management plans play in facilitating and promoting sharing of in situ data. And this is why actually the talk that Greg gave a little while ago is actually very relevant to what I'm going to say. So we've had an activity that is basically focused on assessing the availability and usability of in situ data and explore the potential for developing an automated process for this assessment as it relates to data management plans. So we've basically, the approach that we've adopted is that there were a cohort of 29 Horizon Europe projects that were actually pre-selected that are generating in situ data. And the idea was that we would assess the level of availability of the in situ data and the role that the data management plan has played in making this in situ data not only accessible, but reusable, because the two things are actually quite different. So there has been a two-strand approach to this. The first has actually been to look at where the in situ data is actually available that's been generated by these projects, and indeed if it is even available somewhere. And this has actually been quite a labor-intensive human review, looking at the data management plan and undertaking a desk study. The amount of work this involves meant that we also have developed, or Julia developed, an AI workflow for this activity. And this AI methodology was very much around trying to identify digitally where and how we could access in situ data from these 29 projects. I will say that there was a human quality check involved in the AI process to make sure that it was actually doing what we thought it was doing. But we've also had to validate the results that have come from the AI aspect of this work. But actually, to augment this desk study and this AI work, we've also conducted a number of interviews with the individual projects that have been reviewed to actually assess the level of success of the evaluation of the DMPs we've done. And this has actually been quite revealing in terms of what we found out from a dialogue with the project leaders in comparison to what we were able to learn from the data management plan and the methodology for AI discovery of the data in different repositories. This doesn't want to work today. So there was a small set of variables were used to identify the level of documentation of the data. So there was metadata standards that it used, data formats, types of license that are available, the license type, so whether the data was actually open, restricted open, or actually it wasn't clear what sort of license the data had. On a very fundamental level, it was about identifying whether the data had a DOI, whether it had a landing page, but also we had a look at what was the nature of the repository that was used. Was it a large-scale repository such as Zenodo, or was it a domain-level repository? So what did we learn? So we discovered that of the projects that were assessed, virtually all of them, the data was available. So it had a DOI and it had a landing page. But actually the level of reusability was a little bit more patchy. 62% of the data was considered to be usable in terms of the format and the license that was available and the level of accessibility. And then 37% was partially reusable. And this meant that some of the critical information necessary for reuse was actually missing. The next part of this process was to actually evaluate the data management plan that was provided as part of the documentation at the initiation of the project. And this was equally revealing. We discovered that for 9 of the projects, and that was actually 64%, their original data management plan was fully aligned with the availability of the data in terms of metadata, the repository, etc., and also the licensing and availability. A further 4, there was a partial match in that there was some compliance with their original data management plan, but not all. And in a very small number of cases, in fact 1, the data management plan bore no resemblance to what happened at the end of the project at all. So what did we learn from this process? So we learned, number 1, how human validation adds irreplaceable value in the process as it stands. The direct desk research and direct project engagement actually revealed a lot of information that the AI screening missed. We also discovered that in a number of cases, despite what was put in the original data management plan, the final data was actually in Zenodo. And in fact, most projects default to Zenodo in the absence of any clearer guidance. And it was also very obvious that we need a shift in culture. We need to think about how people think about data management planning, compliance with data management, the data management plans themselves, and how do we embed data management plans into the data workflow and active stewardship throughout the project life cycle, so we stop it being an administrative process and make it part of the research process and valid outputs. I'm going to skim over this very, very small slide. If you have interest, there are a number of high-level insights around compliance tools. So we've already mentioned data management tools, but also there's repositories, the value of using a domain repository over what is euphemistically called a data bucket in some spheres, but also the value of data repositories being involved right at the start of a project. So if there is a long-term plan that starts at the outset of the project, and there is a direct interaction with the repository that the researcher plans to use at the end of the project. So very quickly, because I've had the time's up slide already from the colleague here. So what are we going to do next? So we want to continue to build relationship with the interviewees from each of the projects, but we also want to leverage community expertise. So from people like Greg, who are working on data management tools, but there is a whole community of practice around machine actionable data management plans that we need to draw on. This methodology will be scaled up to increase robustness and include a number of additional projects. We need to think about how do we improve the automation of the assessment process. And finally, we need to understand how do we integrate the findings of this work into policy and practice? How do we make as much use of this information as possible to inform policymakers and those funding agencies who are responsible for allocating resources to future research? And I think that was Julia's last slide.
Yes.
It is.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helen. We have 5 minutes for questions before the break. I just wanted to add, Helen, that you're talking about, of course, the scientific community, but in GEO, we also have the administration and other operational services, and it's equally important for them. I just wanted to say that. Now, the floor is yours, and Jean-Philippe, I give you the floor.
My question is for Helen. So thanks a lot for your work. I mean, you mentioned that a lot of the project that you looked at put their data on Zenodo, which is not the optimal format. And I was wondering whether at the moment we have tools or suggestions or something that would help them find suitable repositories, or is it something that the working group should look at, or do we need community inputs here?
So I think there's actually a couple of answers here. There are a number of tools, repository finder tools out there that are available. So in fact, if you Google repository finder tool, there are a number of that come up, including the Re3 data catalog of domain level repositories. There is also something called the Core Trust Seal repository certification process. And they actually have a list of certified repositories and identify which domain each of those repositories serves. But that is only a snapshot. We need to also understand what happens to orphan data that doesn't have an obvious home. And in fact, the GEO Knowledge Hub is one possible home. If we can't find a suitable home for a particular data set, particularly those that Paula mentioned, short-term 3-year projects, rather than somebody keep it on their computer and it gets lost with time, the GEO Knowledge Hub is a potential option. But in a way, this is a tiering of, from best to, last resort, and the best should be the domain level and last resort should be the Zenodo, and I think the GEO Knowledge Hub comes in there somewhere in the middle. I hope that answers your question, Jean-Philippe.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, you can ask questions to all of the panel participants now. In the white back.
Yeah, my name is Keshav. I'm a professor of computer science at Cambridge. And my question is broadly to the panel. And I'm not really part of the remote sensing community at all, but more sort of coming from the AI data side. When we have large repositories of code in computer science, our experience is there's something called code rot. Basically the funding is time limited, but the code lives on. And so if somebody is on a 3-year postdoc position or a 3-year research associate position, at the end of 3 years, who is going to take over the code? Likewise, if data is collected for a particular project past the project funding deadline, there's no motivation, no resources, no storage, no actually any impetus for that to be maintained, which is why you have a divergence from the data management plan and the actual data. So what we've learned is that if you need to maintain code or data over a longer time period, somebody needs to be responsible and funded for that. And to the extent that we have these goals of long-lived data, that must be associated with long-lived funding as well.
Thank you very much. And the question was for anybody in the panel. And I give the floor first to you, Helen, and then the rest can think about it.
Yeah, sure. So I think this actually very quickly cycles back to what I said a moment ago about the role of domain level repositories, because many of the domain level repositories have long-term sustainable funding, and their mandate is to ensure that data remains usable and available for reuse. And I think a lot of those repositories now are expanding their scope to include the algorithms and software, particularly when we're talking about generating models. And they are now increasingly becoming part of that research body that is, ends up in a repository. But I think there's also a case here for, open source, because if it's out in the domain, it's much more likely to be reused, recoded, and adopted more widely. And I think that adds to the sustainability. But I think we're still a little bit away from software repositories in the same model that we have for data repositories at this point in time. But I don't know who else on the panel wants to comment.
Yep. Kalamkas.
Thank you for the question. I'll try to at least contribute to what Helen said. So if you look at this question from the GeoKnowledge Hub perspective, as we already mentioned, is hosting capability. So the code itself can be stored, and in the presentation, I mentioned that clearly specifying the licenses. This will also help. And then additionally, I can add that in the metadata fields, we have creators and contributors. Also, funding organization, so if it's award or if it's some funded project. So probably clearly specifying all these metadata fields will help later on after the project ends. Identify for whom will the code belong, but in the description, this can be facilitated with some of the wordings and how to manage this information or data after the project ends. So in the GeoKnowledge Hub, so everything stored in the GeoKnowledge Hub belongs to the provider and of course the Geo community if it's open, but also we have this restricted access. If we understand that not all data may be available openly, so this is also possible. And in the GeoKnowledge Hub, in all the data and as the data can be different type of data, including the software code, doesn't belong to the GeoKnowledge Hub team. It belongs to the provider, the content itself, and the Geo community. I hope I helped a little bit to the question.
Thank you very much, Kalamkas. In the interest of time, there was one question. You, okay, sorry, Paula.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to compliment what Kalamkas responded to the funding part. The last question from Cambridge. Yes, I think you raised the question on long-term funding, and I think this is a very, very pertinent question, because what we're doing here, we're not doing it for a short term. We are doing it for a very long term. The ideal scenario, right? And the actual situation is that we are fighting for funding all the time. And so in order to to be a sustainable infrastructure, in order to be a sustainable code, in a service, right? Because having this as a service to the community needs to be sustainable. Otherwise, I don't put my money in a bank that will disappear tomorrow, basically. So the only way to make this sustainable is that the entire GEO community is made of more than 116 members, more than 150 participating organizations, leverage the GEO infrastructure, the tools we have been describing here. They consider it our as a community. And so without having to reestablish a new platform, because we have the OPIDOR tools, without having to reestablish a new portal and so forth, let's put, I don't know, I'm thinking loud. There are many options, right? We're not going to do counting now, but there are many options to say collaboratively, instead of creating a new platform that I need to maintain, I leverage something that the GEO as collectively is supporting as a service, a GEO infrastructure as a service, open, community owned, and so forth. This is an issue will be discussed at the plenary on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay, a very short comment from Joe.
I believe we need to separate what is an active repository of a project that is functioning, whatever how long it is, and the long-term preservation of data. I mean, in principle, at least in Euro, we have this inspire that says that data should be close to the producer. So we shouldn't send the data to an external repository if we are still capable of maintaining it. If we cannot, then the solution of the offered here in GEO is a perfect solution. It's a long-term repository. I have no more money, so I at least guarantee that this is not lost. So that's, I believe we need to look for this equilibrium between, having control of our own data and understanding that we lost the control because we've lost the funding, so we preserve the data out there.
Yes, thank you very much, Joan. I want to close now, but I think you sort of helped me with the last wording here, because I was going to say that everybody in this room have some sort of love for data and data management. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been here. And I think that's part of the solution, that we are a community that will continue to work for it. And we and in GEO, as you said, Joan, since the very beginning, we recognized that those who care the most for the data are those who are producing the data. And that's inherent in the GEO infrastructure that we are now evolving. And so that remains a constant. And I think that's also what I would like to say as a closing word here, that we need to stick together, share the love for the data and for each other in our common interest, I mean. And I think this is also the strength of the GEO community, that we do have this passion almost sometimes for doing this. And in that, we are helping transforming data into Earth intelligence. And with that, I will thank again very much the speakers. Thank you so much for this. We give them an applause again. And we have a few minutes for coffee, and don't forget a picture. Oh yeah, we will take a picture. So the speakers will definitely have to wait for the coffee. And but then the next session will be about the GEO infrastructure and artificial intelligence. And I hope that you have the powers and energy to stay with us, because this is the future. And I will repeat the message again, since we are here loving the data and infrastructure even, please talk to your plenary representatives. We need them to understand the value of what we are doing. So don't miss the opportunity while we are here. Now, photo and coffee. Thank you very much.